Okay, hopefully you can hear this. This is Mr. Demagal, and today I had to cancel our class because we had such major computer. I had a major computer problem over the weekend, but tech support called me this morning. We worked through it, and I'm actually able to fix my computer before class started. But to send out another email saying class was on might be confusing if you're reading your emails out of order, and there was only uh, less than a half an hour before the start of class. So I just decided to make a quick recording instead. I'm going to send it to you this way. So today in history, Peanuts, the Charlie Brown comic strip, appeared for the first time. And maybe this might be surprising, but it's 73 years old. And the creator of Peanuts, Charles Schulz, he just died not that long ago. So definitely within your lifetime. Today, the causes of imperialism are the things that we're going to study, which are very important for tomorrow's quiz. You haven't looked at tomorrow's quiz yet for 3.2, but there will be a part in the quiz where you're asked to type an answer in. Most of our quizzes are multiple choice or true false, maybe matching sometimes, but in this case, we're going to have one right in answer where you have to type an answer in. And a lot of it has to do with the causes of imperialism. So it's good to pay attention to class and the readings. This week, you can see we have nothing but checkpoints, although, as I mentioned, tomorrow's checkpoint, you will have to type a little bit of an answer for one of the questions. And it is worth 15 points by itself. That question on 3.2, if you're the person who's like, I'm going to skip this because I don't like typing, you will fail the quiz. No matter what you do, if you skip the question where you're asked to type an answer, you will fail the quiz. So you need to answer the question. I know some people out there try to dodge answering questions. This case, you cannot do that. Dodge answering typed in questions. Some of you guys are afraid of that for some reason. Okay. And you'll see on Friday, we don't have any actual graded assignments. So Friday is, if you are done with your work, kind of a makeup day for you. Causes of imperialism. So we're going to talk about imperialism, and if you don't know what that is, we'll talk about that in just a second. But imperialism is something that really was a big part of international diplomacy in the late 1800s. Imperialism, by today's standards, is seen as cruel. It was seen by a lot of people back then as cruel as well, because basically it's one stronger nation taking over almost all aspects of the life of another nation. So we'll get into that. So, what do you think imperialism is in your mind? Or maybe you could think of what it means to you, or maybe you've seen movies where imperialism was shown. Normally in class, we'd have a chat period where you could kind of tell me. Imperialism, by the book's definition, and this is a good definition, it is the domination of one country or by one country of the political, economic, and cultural life of another country or region. This last part, it depends on the country. So, some nations that were taking over other nations for money purposes, they may leave the cultural parts of that nation alone. Do what you guys got to do. Mostly, they dominate economic, for sure, parts of that country. They dominate the politics of that country, and they might dominate the culture. Okay. And another way to put it is the policy or action by which one nation's control another country or territory. They're not taking it over. They're not renaming the country, or they're not including it in their country. Like, this is now part of America or whatever. This is different. This is taking over a country. The name stays the same. They have their own leaders, but now they are run by England or France or Germany or whoever. They may even actually start to speak English. They're definitely being taught that language in their schools, the language of whoever has taken over their country. So it is sort of taken all over. Now, most of the places that imperialism hits are Asia, Africa, Latin America, Australia, and South America. Although South America, by the mid 1800s, is almost completely run by their own countries. They're not still a colony of somebody else. But there are some examples otherwise. So you could be either a colony, a protectorate, or it could be under a sphere of influence. Colonies are the ones you might think of when I say imperialism, and you think of some country in uh, maybe Asia or Africa that they're controlled by the British. British troops are walking around the streets of India. That's a colony. India was a colony of Britain for hundreds of years. You can have direct control of a country, which means we will tell you exactly what to do and you'll do it. Okay. Or you can have indirect control. The best way to go about it is if you can control indirectly, that's better. Indirect means local rulers like kings or sultans, they actually still govern. They still do the day-to-day governance, but they do it with Britain's guidance or Britain sort of telling them what to do. Or you could do direct control. Your presence is felt in cities and towns. The English or the French or whoever are in your town, in your city, and they're there to set control, set policies, and govern that way. Great Britain usually tried indirect control, and the French went with direct control. I would argue that indirect control was better, and it was a little bit kinder than direct control imperialism. Okay, you could be a protectorate. A protectorate is a form of imperial rule which local rulers left in place, but they are expected to follow the advice of imperial advisors on issues like trade and missionary activity, which means like the religious groups that are in your country. In this form of imperial rule, the countries are still independent, but they are under the protection of an imperial country. It's like not quite as bad as being a colonial power under indirect or direct rule. It's better than that, but it's still sort of under the influence of the other country. Okay. And then spheres of influence, this is very unique to China. So if you look at spheres of influence, it's the form of imperial rule involving claiming exclusive trading rights. What that means is you can only trade with us. That's exclusive trading rights. So, believe it or not, Britain had this in America. When America was a colony of Britain, Britain would say you're only allowed to trade with us. Now, the Americans they went around this. They tended to trade with who they wanted to. It was considered smuggling. But the American merchants, guys like John Hancock, did this no problem. They had no reservations with doing that and breaking the law because they thought it wasn't really right. But England did have exclusive trading rights with the colonies for a lot of different things. Okay. Trading rights must be granted under the threat of military force. So this is a sphere of influence again in China. And it was used also it was used by Britain, France, Portugal, Russia, and Japan in China. China was famous for being a country that was being colonized with this approach by multiple countries. Multiple countries had a little sphere of influence. Imagine a little circle in your country where everything in that circle is controlled by the British, and everything in this other circle of another city that's controlled by the French, and everything down here in this little circle, maybe that's under Japan's control. Japan is a imperial power. So in other words, they are an abuser, not an abused. When I say abuser, I mean they're abusing another country's sovereignty, which means the ability to run your own country. America does this too. It's not like one country was better than the other. If you took part in imperialism and you controlled another country, you made a lot of money, but you didn't do it in a good way. What caused countries to build empires in the new age of imperialism? Well, let's get to it. So there are economic reasons, obviously. Most countries do things for money in some way. So one of the reasons why you can make money is because you could go and let's say a country takes over India. India could be a place where you get raw materials. That's good for England, okay? England can get raw materials from India. Then those raw materials can be brought back to England, produced into some sort of good, and then sold back to the Indian people in their markets. So economically, it's great for the imperial powers. They get raw materials, they have a new market to sell their stuff in, and it looks good in terms of how their prestige is in the world stage because they're exporting or trading a lot of goods and making money. And also, you could use the Indian labor, that means the people that are living in India, to build stuff for you or to sell things for you, and they do it cheaper than somebody back in England. So it's cheap labor. Okay. The next one is political, which means when I say political, I mean like anything related to government, sort of. Political motives were based on a nation's desire to gain power, look good to other countries, and you're competing against other countries. A great example is England is always competing with Germany and France. They're always in competition, those three powers. It also makes the military look good, gives you prestige. There's national pride, and how many colonies you have. The leader of Germany was obsessed. Kaiser Wilhelm wanted prestige. He wanted to look good on the front. And then there's social religious values, right? So we're going to get into race a little bit because this is part of it. There were people that were living in England and other parts of these imperial countries like France that thought that the white race was superior to other cultures and that other cultures were primitive. And they also thought they needed to civilize those people. So these people who would say these things that today wouldn't fly at all. You can't say this. I mean, this is terrible, right? And obviously it's not true. But back then they'd say, well, we're trying to civilize people. We're trying to help other parts of the world by bringing England to, this country that's not developed yet. So there's a religious and social quality to it. And religious people that went to these countries were trying to convert them to the religions. They were trying to save people, right? They were trying to convert them to the religion, and they were thinking that they're saving the people that are there. They're trying to spread the faith to areas of the world that did not have it. Okay, so think of Christian missionaries, which super dangerous to do this. Go into another part of the world, you don't know the culture, you don't speak the language, and you're gonna go and spread the faith with no weapons. So there's that part, the social and religious parts of it too. Great Britain led the European drive for colonies. Britain is number one in the amount of colonies and land that they take. They build the largest empire ever seen. And this picture and the graphic is true. When they say the sun never sets on the British Empire, they mean that when the time changes and it gets dark in one area of the world and it's light in the other, what they're saying is that at no point at any part of the day is some part of the British Empire having sun on it. So if it's dark in England, it's light in India. If it's dark in India, it's light in England, if you get that. And it's all parts of the world. At one point, the British Empire controlled 1/4 of all the land in the world. This little island nation right above the E in this map controls all of these territories. And at one point controlled America. Okay, checkpoint today is what is imperialism? And your answer, because we're running out of time, this only goes 15 minutes, these recordings, is B, the domination by one country of the political, economic, and or cultural life of another country or region. Okay, what's the main cause of imperialism that you see in this picture? You may be asked to read graphs on tests and stuff. This is a great picture that shows that it's economic, because this guy's searching, he's grabbing at gold, which is money. Okay. And then this one, the three political causes of imperialism that are on this list, you can see, are to boost national pride, to gain power, and to exercise military force. All right, guys, I'm about done. We're 7 seconds before this stops off on its own. Good luck with the checkpoint today, and I'll see you all in class tomorrow.